my Project Hail Mary review. This movie has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. I would give it 1.5 stars, maybe 2. Before I get into it, a little context. First, I have not read Project Hail Mary, the book by Andy Weir, the same author of The Martian. So this is a standalone movie review. I will not be comparing it to the book. Secondly, there will be spoilers. So if you're not interested in those, get out of here now. All right, let's get into it. In its 2.5 hour runtime, Project Hail Mary feels like a very long setup for what is essentially a space bromance between Ryan Gosling's character and a rock. And yes, they name the rock Rocky. Rocky speaks in these whale-like tones, and Gosling's character, Ryland Grace, builds a translator so they can communicate in what is essentially broken, simplified English. It is very Wall-E meets E.T. meets a really smart golden retriever, which is fine. It's cute. But this man is also trapped in space alone while the sun is dying. And for me, that tonal mix just didn't hold. This is a movie with a very serious premise. An alien microbe, astrophage, is eating the sun's energy, which will trigger a global ice age and wipe out humanity. I mean, that's not a light setup, but the movie keeps undercutting that with jokes, pratfalls, and this sort of oddly cutesy relationship dynamic. So instead of feeling tension, you're watching what sometimes feels like a sci-fi escape room with punchlines. Let's talk about Ryland Grace. He's a former molecular biologist turned middle school teacher who wakes up alone in space with amnesia. On paper, that's a chilling premise. On screen, he's slipping, flailing, making faces, kind of mugging for the camera. Gosling is a terrific actor and a fantastic physical comedian, but here I never fully believed him as this character. They try to sell nerdy with messy hair and crooked glasses, but it always feels like Ryan Gosling is sort of in a costume, not a fully lived in person. And I think part of the problem is we never really know who he is. We get glimpses and fragments. We find out he was brilliant. He was a controversial scientist. He might have had a DUI. He tells us he's not brave. And then he's suddenly humanity's last hope. It just never quite lands emotionally and kind of realistically, which becomes a bigger issue because there's no real antagonist. There's no villain. There's no one back on Earth you're personally invested in saving. So saving humanity stays very abstract. And instead of emotional stakes, we get a series of problems to solve in space. Again, escape room energy. Then there's Rocky. Rocky is clearly meant to be the emotional center of this film. This is where the movie is trying to show Grace's humanity through a connection with Rocky, and friendship and ultimately sacrifice. But to me, the relationship feels very underdeveloped, a little obvious, a little too sentimental for something that's supposed to carry, the emotional weight of the entire story. And by the time it pays off, I just wasn't invested in enough to feel it. Meanwhile, back on Earth, we have Ava Stratt, who's running the entire operation. Her character is intense, humorless, vaguely terrifying, and honestly kind of great. I think she's probably my favorite character in the movie. There's a karaoke scene with her that might be the best moment in the film, if only because it briefly feels like we're in a different, more grounded film. Also, this is just a little aside, there are an awful lot of close-ups of Ryan Gosling. A lot. I mean, by the end, I felt like I knew his pores personally. And I think the soundtrack is doing a lot of the emotional heavy lifting, which I think is sort of a shortcut to feeling instead of good storytelling. They did include Two of Us by the Beatles, which is one of my favorite Beatles songs. So that was nice. I thought some of the visuals were genuinely strong, and that's not surprising. This was shot by Greg Fraser, who won the Academy Award for Dune and was also nominated for Lion and Dune Part 2. He's also done Zero Dark 30, did Rogue One, Batman, and The Creator. So you can really feel that level of craft in moments, even if the film around it doesn't quite come together. My final thoughts about this movie. For me, Project Hail Mary felt tonally confused. It wants to be everything all at once: heartfelt, funny, high stakes, and intimate. And it never quite works in any of them. It's sort of spread too thin. Sometimes it feels a little too schlocky. It almost is insulting. It's directed by Philip Lord and Christopher Miller. This is the team behind the animated Spider-Verse series. So it makes sense that it doesn't have that Christopher Nolan or Ridley Scott gravitas. It comes from a different creative place. Not to say that these guys couldn't do that. I just can see how this is sort of part of their body of work. I think it's an interesting idea, uneven execution, a little too cute for its own good. Here's what I'd watch instead: the classics. If you want real tension, Alien. If you want emotional scientific depth, I'd say Interstellar. And if you want classic space adventure, the original Star Wars trilogy.